Welcome back to the Innovative Agency, everybody. Sharon Torek here with you today, and I am excited about today's conversation. It's not something we've really talked about much on the show. We don't usually get sort of focused on media or medium, I should say, but one thing I have observed in looking at tons of marketing over the years that our clients put out is that it is increasingly and heavily reliant on video to tell the story, to make a point, and it's true just about every platform and every kind of tactic that I've seen agencies execute. And so I'm looking forward to today's conversation with a video marketing expert. And Diane Strand founded JDS Studio and has several other businesses under that umbrella that focus all on video production. And so, Diane, I'm really happy to have you here today and talk about it.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm excited to be here and to chat.
Yeah, me too. So I guess the first and most obvious question um, is how have you seen with all of the changes in the last several years in marketing and the kinds of work that agencies are tasked to do with marketing or come to you to help them with for marketing? What have you seen the most significant changes in how video gets incorporated into an integrated marketing strategy over the last few years?
Sure. Well, I have been doing video production as a way to market and communicate for over 20 years now, and
Mhm.
it has evolved immensely over that time. I would say the first 10 years, it was everybody kind of coming into the space, realizing they needed a website, they needed to have some sort of video on that website as you were, kind of going back 15 to 10 years ago. And at that time, videos were much more, we called them handshake videos. So when they went to your website, they could kind of get to know you and understand a little bit about what you did. These were longer videos. These were like videos that were in that, 3.5 to 5 minute space. And
Mhm.
then over the last 10 years, they have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. And especially as social media has just taken over in the way that now you have to get your message out in the first 45 seconds that you are starting to put something out onto social media, because no longer are they going to your website to find out what you're doing. They're checking out your Instagram profile, your Facebook, or your LinkedIn, and they're trying to see who you are and what you are. If you can get them from there to go to your website, then you've won them already and you've moved into that sale, and you've been able to elevate from getting them in that 45-second space to be able to move into that longer space to be able to really dive into your material in a marketing way. But right now, everything is short and quick and to the point, and get it out and show me what you have. Even the longer videos on social media where, it takes, people aren't waiting the 3 minutes of I'll get to that point in 3 minutes where they're like, "Ah, I'm done, I'm out."
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Well, and I wonder, as I was hearing you sort of describe the evolution, has this sort of changed the talent pool or the skill sets that you look for in your own production company? Because it sounds to me like post-production editing has become so much more crucial now in the discipline because you've got to create this, you have to chop this content up in lots of different ways, and chopping it strategically is important, right? For it to come across in the medium you're using it on.
Absolutely. I also believe that, in the marketing space, you have to build your personal brand in that space, because everything, you don't have to be the influencer, but you still have to have, you still have to have a personal brand. I couldn't sell my video production company or my actor studio or, any of the classes that I teach in my nonprofit space if I didn't have a personal brand out there and people didn't know, trust, and like me. And that's one of the great things with social media now, is that we can start to build that brand of who we are, and then people start to trust us, and then they'll come deeper into our space to be able to do that. So that's a big part of where the evolution of marketing is going, is who are you and why should I trust you if I'm going to buy your product and I don't know you anything other than what I see on virtual internet type resources. If you're going to buy even somebody's widget or gadget or anything that's out there, you have to use that creative. That's my tagline. I'm the creativepreneur, because the arts touch everything, whatever industry it is. So you have to build that personal brand. You have to make it engaging, and it has to be trustworthy, and it has to come across in some sort of video connection that you make with the person on the other side.
That's really interesting, and I'm wondering if you have a point of view on this. I've asked this of some other guests on the show, over the episodes, and I'm wondering how you feel about establishing the personal brand and profile of an individual leader or executive within a company versus using video to sort of showcase the company's brand itself. Do you have an opinion about how to blend those two, or when the leader of a company, their personal brand is crucial versus the company's brand itself?
I think they're both just as crucial. I don't know. No, I do. I really think it doesn't matter if you're Coca-Cola. It doesn't matter if you're the small mom and pop or you're somewhere in the middle. We are, there are certain things that we don't have. Like, let's take like a biotech. I work a lot in the biotech and medical world. And, if their company brand is what I need to trust if I'm going to put their medical device in me. But I also want to know that the people who are researching it and developing it and selling it are somebody that I can put my faith in. Did they do their homework? That's going to help me respect the brand more. That's going to help me trust the brand more. Even here, the last question, I may have derailed a little bit from it about how important editors are and the camera people in that stuff. My staff, their brand is important because they represent me in another way when they go out there, whether they're at a chamber event or they're, showing up there behind the camera, or doing something. You have to trust that camera operator. I can't be everywhere. So to trust me means that you're trusting my people. So to trust my people, they need to have a little bit of their own brand themselves. I guess there may be some cap that you may put on that in certain areas because, they do work for you and represent you. But
Right.
my employees, they win awards. I mean, right now, as we're recording this podcast, I've got 40 high school students touring my 10,000 square foot studio. And I have my staff, I have to have them trust, they have to have a brand, they have to have
Right.
their own identity to be able to engage and do our day to day. So I think that's just as important.
It's an interesting point you made about your team members each needing their own individual brands, and it makes me wonder about the role of video in the whole talent acquisition process, or the talent showcasing process, if you will. Have you seen your clients come to you, or have you, as a company yourself, integrated video into the talent acquisition process at all? And if you have, I'd love to hear about some of the ways that you've experimented with that.
Well, I think it's interesting at first when you were talking about talent acquisition, I go to my actor studio to where I've launched over
Not thinking
100
about
employees.
hiring. Yeah, that you're right. I
But
should have
then as you were
clarified.
talking, it was bringing them in and who it is. But absolutely, I'm currently hiring an animator at the moment, and I'm not even looking at them unless they show me their reel and what they've done and being able to see that. So video is huge to me in the talent acquisition when I'm hiring camera operators or editors or animators. I want to see their work and I can tell the difference. I'm not an animator, but I
Mhm.
know when someone's giving me something that is animation and 2D and 3D, or they're showing me After Effects work that might have some animation in it, but I know the difference when I look at it. I might not be able to make either of them, but I've been
Yeah,
around long enough to know you can't sell yourself as an animator if you only know After Effects. So those things are important to bring them in. I also believe that, in the talent acquisition spaces, you're looking for them, my social media person, they have to have some sort of brand in who they are, because they have to represent me when I can't always be there. Like right now, I can't be in two places at one time. I'm here with you and I can't be there. So, I have my staff representing me. So, who they represent on camera, because we go live all the time around me, is how it reflects back on me. And that would be important, I think, for any industry. You're in the legal firm, how does somebody represent themselves, and have their personal brand? Because they're going to be your partner. They're going to be someone that clients have to come in and trust. So are they giving good advice out there in the real world? That's why we check their LinkedIn and their social
right.
media, to make sure they're not one per Jekyll and Hyde, right?
Yeah, for sure. And have you integrated video resumes at all in your recruiting? Do you have any candidates submit on, or are they still using traditional means to
Yeah, I use
get
more
everybody?
traditional. I do hire a lot of entry level people, so their reel is very important, because they may have never had a real job, but I can groom them on certain things, and which I like to do. But no, we haven't used a whole lot of video actual resumes. I do Zoom. There will be a first interview that I will definitely do in this format, especially
Yeah,
since COVID, which is important to see how they represent. Do they turn their camera on or do they leave it off? So,
right. Yeah, or do they sit in their car and have an interview
right.
with me, which actually happened to me one time when we were interviewing a candidate. That was a first. So I'm wondering what we can share with the agency owners listening to this to help them be more effective when they either come to collaborate with someone like you and your studio, or what they need to do to prepare their clients for coming to a studio or a company like yours to be effective in their video work. What do you wish more agencies who you might collaborate with or more clients knew about the process?
Um, well, there's a big difference in the process of, everyone wants something for nothing. And I always say, when you're always asking a small business to take a discount, it's like asking a regular employee to work, 15 hours of overtime and not get paid for it. In that sense. So, uh, you know, a lot of times they're going to go find their college student or their best friend who can shoot video and does, takes great pictures. And yes, video world, all of that, it's not brain surgery in the fact that, you don't need a legal degree. You don't have to go to school for umpteen years and come out with all these certificates. But there is something to be said about the concept development and being able to put the messaging out there. And as we were just talking about, being able to get that message across. And just because you can do that in your personal social media and show someone what you had for dinner and how great it tasted, doesn't mean that you can go into a company that performs high level functions, whether it be biotech or engineering, and be able to put concepts together, when you don't even understand life yourself. So that is the difference in, when you're looking to hire an agency that has that skill and that experience and that reputation behind it, that is going to, maybe have to have some budget attached to it, as opposed to finding the videographer that, will do your gig for $500 because they have a camera and a drone and they can make you a great video, and you think you can direct them through that and get your message across. You're going to probably be sorry at the end.
Yeah, but I get that. Assume though that we're dealing with a level of sophistication where they do have a budget for professional video services. And so they're not expecting, amateur work or something that's, dirt cheap to do. They know they need to integrate professionally created video into their marketing strategy. What do they need to know about getting prepared to work with a professional team like the one that you have, to be effective, to be efficient, to collaborate well? Because I imagine sometimes they're coming to you and they've got a creative concept already kind of in hand and they're executing it in a non-video way, but they want your help. What do they need to know about working well with a professional video firm?
Well, they need to know who they want to speak to. And they need to know who is your avatar. That is always the big question of who you're speaking to, because that's how you're going to you're going to develop this video project for them to speak to whoever it is that you're trying to reach. And
Mhm.
what is that end concept that you have that vision of being? Because when you can describe what you want that end concept to look, a professional like myself can break that down and know where we need to start
Mhm.
in that sense. And, having some of your own marketing collateral already pulled together that you have used and done in the past, whether it's worked or hasn't worked, so we can evaluate that. I always ask clients to show me videos that resonate with them as well when they're
Mhm.
looking at things, because when I know what they like, I can create something that's going to resonate with them. So, nobody is ever going to love your business like you love your business. So if I can see what you love, then I can try and create something similar to what you love, giving the message that you want to deliver. So those are always really important things to be able to show me when we're, trying to break down a video that you may want. Currently, I work on videos for long periods of time. Like we are doing the video for our state of the city, for our city of Temecula. And we started this project back in June of last year of covering all these different events that the city puts on for their programs that are all about workforce development. And so we just recorded events and B-roll, and we had like hours and hours and hours of footage. And we didn't know, it wasn't until we sat down and, realized how we can tell this story in a way that's going to engage 900 community members, that it's going to be able to get the message across about what great programs the city offers for youth and young adults, while also keeping them entertained. So, we had to meld it with a little bit of humor and fun to get them all excited, as well as fast-paced, good, upbeat music that shows all of these different scenarios and tell a story with it through the interviews that, took place that we did with the professionals, that then, it's looking at a lot of footage to put a story together and being able to understand that to create, an under 3-minute video that's going to show in front of 900 people at the end of May.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's that editing again, right? And how
Yes.
how much of an art that it is. So putting sort of looking through your crystal ball, what do you see or what changes or evolutions do you predict in video marketing over the next 18 to 24 months?
Well, it's not going anywhere. That much I can envision. It's
Yeah.
only going to um get better and different. AI is taking over a lot of the industry. So get ahead of it, know the industry well enough, know AI so you can be able to use it to your advantage and not let it use you. In that sense, it is a big part of the creative industry. So I definitely say learn AI and be versed in those tools. But the bottom line is we're all storytellers. So work on your storytelling. It doesn't matter if you have to tell that story in 30 seconds or less, or you have 30 minutes to tell that story, or maybe 3 hours, in that sense. So, there's all the different things that that you need to be able to pull that together. That's the bottom line is if we can tell a good story, we're going to be able to market our message. We're going to be able to share our brand. We're going to be able to engage others to come to us. So focus on the storytelling and learn the tools.
Yeah. Any tools that you and your team are particularly fond of or have found particularly use any AI tools that you found really helpful in your work?
Well, if you use Adobe, which if you're an editor or graphic designer in that, Firefly is something that you should do. That's Adobe's AI. You also have Dolly with ChatGPT. That gives you more on the creative space, as well as Gemini with Google. Those are really good. I mean, you can get into some fun stuff with Hey Gen and some different things, if you want to do some
Yeah,
things in
that's what
different
I'm looking for. What
languages.
are sort of the not traditional, what are some of the ones that the more sophisticated practitioners are experimenting with right now that your team might be really enjoying working with?
Well, I get that. Hey Gen is great. I don't use Hey Gen in my day to day. We've played with it, but
Mhm.
I'm not creating videos in Japanese and Spanish every day. So it's not something that,
Yeah,
I'm using. I know it's out there. I would even say yes, even though it's like, oh, I know Chat GPT but there is so much to learn into that because remember, going back to that storytelling, it's all about the prompt. And you still have to be a writer because you have to know how to prompt the
right.
AI to get out of it what you want.
Yeah.
So, focus on the things that maybe it's like, oh, I can do that and I can do that. Or I've had AI spit me out an email or something like that. But delve into it. Mid-Journey is also one of the other real creative ones if you're getting into some visual animation and backdrops and stuff like that. And they're developing every day, but the ones that are out there, they're just going to get bigger and bigger and better and better.
Yeah. So true. This has been so helpful. I really appreciate you providing the perspective of somebody who's focused on this discipline because there's so much to know and think about when you're thinking about the video representation or the sort of the visual representation of a brand, right? Or a campaign. And so, where can agencies go to learn more about the work that your studio is doing and some of these other businesses that you've created adjacent to sort of fulfill your passion for the arts and using the arts and to communicate?
Well, hashtag JDS family. I'm wearing my JDS studio shirt
Oh,
right
yeah?
now.
Awesome.
But hashtag JDS family, that's going to get you to anything, whether the main site is jdsstudio.live, but then there's JDS Video, JDS Actor Studio, JDS Creative Academy, my TV show, Spirit of Innovation, Arts Across America. So I have a big festival, DigiFest, which is for the business community as much as it's for the creative community.
Mhm.
So, the arts, video, multimedia, it touches every industry, because everybody has to market and communicate, and it's video and multimedia that you need to put that out there. So if I can be of service and help you in your marketing or communication strategy, help you launch or leverage or use video to your best, be creative out there. That's why I'm the creativepreneur, whether you're a creative that's looking to launch or you're a business that needs more creative, then we can help you.
I love it. I love the passion for the creative work, and if we had another hour, I'd love to get into all of your businesses because I find them fascinating. But Diane, thanks so much for sharing your expertise today on the show. We really appreciate it. It's good talking to you.
Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it. Love it.